The mounting pressures of World War I, combined with years of injustice, toppled the rule of Tsar Nicholas II in March 1917. Forced to abdicate, he was replaced by a provisional government committed to continuing the war. Increasing losses at the front and the fear of a German advance on Moscow eroded what little support remained for the war and undermined the provisional government's authority. Capitalizing on this situation, the Germans secretly transported the exiled Vladimir Lenin in a sealed train from Switzerland to Russia in the hope he would inflame the turmoil. German expectations were realized on the night of November the 7th, when Lenin led the Bolsheviks in a successful attempt to grab the reins of power in St. Petersburg. Anti-Bolshevik forces immediately took up arms to oust the communist regime, and Russia was plunged into a brutal civil war. The following March, the communist regime signed a treaty with the Germans ending Russia's participation in World War I. Against this backdrop of political chaos, the Tsar and his family were initially kept as prisoners near St. Petersburg and then transported beyond the Ural Mountains, finally ending up in the town of Ekaterinburg in the spring of 1918. The 7 members of the imperial family and their small retinue were confined to the house of a successful local merchant called Nikolai Ipatiev, which had been commandeered by the Bolsheviks for this purpose. By mid-July, a Czech contingent of the anti-Bolshevik forces was approaching Ekaterinburg, and the sounds of gunfire could be heard in the distance by the royal prisoners and their Bolshevik captors. The arrival of their potential liberators sealed the fate of the Tsar and his family. During the early morning hours of July 17th, the Tsar, his wife, children and servants were herded into the cellar of their prison house. Pavel Medvedev was a member of the squad of soldiers guarding the royal family. He describes the event as follows.
In the evening of 16th July, between 7 and 8 p.m., when the time or my duty had just begun, Commandant Yurovsky, the head of the execution squad, ordered me to take all the Nagant revolvers from the guards and to bring them to him. I took 12 revolvers from the sentries as well as from some other of the guards and brought them to the Commandant's office. Yurovsky said to me, "We must shoot them all tonight, so notify the guards not to be alarmed if they hear shots." I understood that Yurovsky had it in his mind to shoot the whole of the Tsar's family, as well as the doctor and the servants who lived with them, but I didn't ask him where or by whom the decision had been made. At about 10 o'clock in the evening, in accordance with Yurovsky's order, I informed the guards not to be alarmed if they should hear firing. Just before Yurovsky went to awaken the family, 2 members of the Extraordinary Commission arrived at Ipatiev's house. About midnight, Yurovsky woke up the Tsar's family. I do not know if he told them the reason they had been awakened and where they were to be taken, but I positively affirm that it was Yurovsky who entered the room occupied by the Tsar's family. Shortly after 1 o'clock a.m., the Tsar, the Tsaritsa, their 4 daughters, the maid, the doctor, the cook and the waiters left their rooms. The Tsar carried the heir in his arms. The emperor and the heir were dressed in soldiers' shirts and wore caps. The empress, her daughters, and the others followed him. Yurovsky, his assistant, and the 2 above-mentioned members of the Extraordinary Commission accompanied them. I was also present. During my presence, none of the Tsar's family asked any questions. They did not weep or cry. Having descended the stairs to the first floor, we went out into the court, and from there to the second door, we entered the ground floor of the house. When the room was reached, Yurovsky ordered chairs to be brought, and his assistant brought 3 chairs. 1 chair was given to the emperor, 1 to the empress, and the 3rd to the heir. The empress sat by the wall by the window, near the black pillar of the arch. Behind her stood 3 of her daughters. I knew their faces very well, because I had seen them every day when they walked in the garden, but I didn't know their names. The heir and the emperor sat side by side, almost in the middle of the room. Dr. Botkin stood behind the heir. The maid, a very tall woman, stood at the left of the door leading to the storeroom. By her side stood the Tsar's fourth daughter. Two servants stood against the wall on the left from the entrance of the room. The maid carried a pillow. The Tsar's daughters also brought small pillows with them. One pillow was put on the Empress's chair, another on the heir's chair. At this moment, 11 men entered the room. Yurovsky, his assistant, 2 members of the Extraordinary Commission, and 7 Let's operatives of the infamous Cheka or secret police. Yurovsky ordered me to leave, saying, "Go onto the street, see if there is anybody there, and wait to see whether the shots have been heard."
It seemed as if all of them guessed their fate, but not one of them uttered a single sound. Nicholas had put Alexei on the chair and stood in such a way that he shielded him. Alexei sat in the left corner from the entrance. And so far as I can remember, I said to Nicholas that his royal and close relatives inside the country and abroad were trying to save him, but the Soviet of Workers' deputies resolved to shoot them. Puzzled, he turned to Alexei. At that moment, I shot him and killed him outright. He did not get time to face us to get an answer. At that moment, disorganized, not orderly firing began. The room was small, but everybody could come in and carry out the shooting according to the set order, but many shot through the doorway. Bullets began to ricochet because the wall was brick. Moreover, the firing intensified when the victims' shouts arose. I managed to stop the firing, but with great difficulty. A bullet, fired by somebody in the back, hummed near my head and grazed either the palm or finger of another soldier. When the firing stopped, it turned out that 2 of the daughters, Alexandra and Demidova, as well as Alexei, were still alive. I think they had fallen from fear, and so they were alive. We proceeded to finish them off. Previously, I had suggested shooting at the heart to avoid a lot of blood. Alexei remained sitting petrified. I killed him. They shot the daughters, but did not kill them. Then Yermakov resorted to a bayonet, but that did not work either. Finally, they killed them by shooting them in the head. Only in the forest did I finally discover the reason why it had been so hard to kill the daughters and Alexandra Feodorovna.